Hello and welcome to ComposerScape episode 14. And Here we are. Yeah, we're going to talk about all sorts of things. And we're going to dive in. We're going to start off by talking about just kind of what's going on, because we've been like talking about literally, well, it's going to be kind of funny how we start, but we've been talking about Marvel and DC for a few weeks now, because let's face it, a lot's been going on. We had Justice League, Falcon Winter Soldier, WandaVision, movie announcements, trailers, and it's all been very focused on those two things. Godzilla vs. Kong hit, and it's a popcorn movie. The fights were amazing.
Yes, they were.
Someone had the idea to literally, if they're going to make another one, why have people in it at all? Just have the monsters fighting the whole time.
That's most of what that movie was. The scenes of Hong Kong getting annihilated, right? Thankfully, you didn't actually see any people.
The Kong coming down with his World of Warcraft weapon to to strike down Godzilla. Yeah, that was I think a lot of the people didn't like the movie were Team Kong people. I think that's bad marketing to do that. They did that with Batman v Superman, where it's like, what team are you on? And that way, and when you do that, when you market it that way and your team loses, then I think it might paint how you feel about the movie. But I can only say that because there was no way I wanted Godzilla to lose.
Was there a loser? Other than I'm not going to spoil it.
They had to...
Not that there's much plot to spoil there. Let's be honest.
They had to jumpstart Kong's heart, so he was technically dying. So I would say, yeah.
Okay.
I'll say this, and they tried to keep it for biggest spoiler because they're like, who will be the king, right? And they called it Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, not Godzilla versus King Kong. But I will say this, King Kong, yes, Godzilla, so that he kind of wins automatically. But I did like the emotion they can get in these CGI creatures now is pretty insane to me. Like the way
that is
they
impressive.
looked at each other was nuts.
Yeah, it always makes me think of the de-aged scenes. We recently rewatched Ant-Man and the Wasp, and we have so many spoilers in this show. If you've seen it through the end of the most recent season of Mandalorian, huge cameo by an actor there that was de-aged, made them look younger, and Marvel have done that several times, right?
Yeah, that's past I don't even have to mention spoilers for Mandalorian. You can't. Yeah, that was the Mark Hamill. Which brings us around to Sebastian Stan. And if you follow Mark Hamill on Twitter, him and Sebastian Stan have hit off of quite the friendship, because fans have been casting Sebastian Stan to anytime they want to show Luke Skywalker again, because he looks so... There is a photo where they took the Sebastian...
I haven't seen that.
Stan, Luke, let's try that. And there's his photo, and here it is right off. Someone took the famous Empire Strikes Back, and that's both of them. Isn't that crazy?
That is impressive.
Mark Hamill on the right, left, and Sebastian Stan on the right. And then interesting about the de-aging, and as evil as I don't want to say evil. Evil's a weird term. As dangerous as deep fakes are, someone replaced the Mandalorian footage in like less than a day using deep fake technology of Mark Hamill instead of the de-aging of whatever they did. And it looks real. It looks 100% better than the scene we got in The Mandalorian. So it's crazy. You should search for that one. Okay. So they use de-aging. And they use deep fake technology instead of the de-aging. Yeah. And it looks more natural. The same. His eyes focus, and
it's very similar technology. You've got some kind of CGI that's got a map of facial features and expressions and the muscle movements and all that stuff, and they, assuming they have an algorithm or something that programs all that stuff in, and they get an actor, right? Someone in one of those screen type motion capture suits, and then they're just pasting all of that into the scene.
Right. And that's the de-aging, and the deep fake uses AI, and that's why it comes out being a little more realistic in the end.
Okay. I have no idea.
Another
what
thing
I'm
they
talking
did
about.
in Mandalorian that was really cool is, and the way they can film these things that look like, feature movies is they use a LED backdrop, and in essence, they don't have to like do the green screen and all that and the post production. They can do it all at the same time. They're in the scenes. The actors can react with the scenes. And a lot of people are like, even Zack Snyder in the JusticeCon was this weekend. He mentioned he got to test out the LED and showed like on his phone a little clip of something he did. And it looks like his kid is in Australia.
Oh, wow.
But I know they use that in Mandalorian a lot. So that's opening the door to all of these things being more commonplace. These big, you don't have to spend $300 million to make something look like it spent $300 million on.
That's handy.
But yes, that ending scene in Mandalorian. And there's another universe. It's going to be coming soon because I think we're getting Obi-Wan at some point less than a year from now, right? Well, I know we're getting the book of Boba Fett. It was promised in December. I don't know if it's actually happening, but it was.
Do we have a release date?
For Obi-Wan?
So. For Obi-Wan. I don't think there's a release date for that yet.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
We were talking before we started rolling, just kind of shotgunning here, bouncing around to stuff that is things we hope to see. Most of this we're definitely going to see before the end of 2021 and what we have to look forward to at the conclusion of Falcon and Winter Soldier, movies that are forthcoming. Don't want to get too hooked, like you opened up talking about DC and Marvel necessarily. Loki is the next show that's coming out. I think we mentioned that in the last episode. The trailer for which is kind of mind blowing, and we're just about a month and a half away from that.
Yep.
That looks like it's going to be amazing.
I think Army of the Dead comes out around the same time. If you're into zombie things, it looks like it's going to be fantastic.
Of course, Black Widow being the next film we're expecting in the MCU. If you haven't seen the trailers for that, it looks amazing. Something that has received, I think, very little traction, at least with some of the blogs and websites and stuff that I follow. Nobody's really been talking about the forthcoming Shang Chi movie. And
oh yeah, here's an article right here.
I mean, this is a character that, in my opinion, I hate to call it like a C-list Marvel character. They really are starting to dig into these rosters. And well,
it worked with their first big film. I mean, Iron Man was B-listed best when they made that movie. I
mean, he's always been.
I had not heard
of the
of
original Avengers. How have you?
Right.
You're saying you had not heard of Iron Man?
Well, no, I had heard vaguely, but I'd never been like. It wasn't like Iron Man showed up a lot and like.
Okay.
Not like the X-Men or Spider-Man or the Hulk. So instead of doing a Captain America movie first or a well, they couldn't do the X-Men, so I guess Captain Marvel. That would have been actually kind of impressive if they did Captain Marvel first, honestly. A female movie, but
yeah. Well, I think to me, I'm going to shoot my opinion off here. I can get some angry emails about it. Shang-Chi has always been one of these characters that I think people either confuse with the Iron Fist, or maybe he's in Danny Rand, the Iron Fist shadow, or the whole world and the cast of characters and all these factions that we got exposed to with the Marvel run on the Netflix shows that include the Hell's Kitchen crew, the Defenders, the Hand, Kunlun and Danny Rand and the Iron Fist, Daredevil, Elektra. You get all this faction, and Shang-Chi, is essentially going to come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Maybe, I don't know this for a fact, but maybe because the MCU doesn't yet have the rights, or because that show, the Netflix shows, are still so recent that they decided to move forward with this character versus
isn't yes with this, but isn't. Well, when they announced this, it was back in 20. It says joined. I don't know if this is not verified SHANG CHI account, so I'm not certain that this is real. But it says September 3. Huh?
Yeah,
that sounds right. But no, the Matt Murdock, and of course, here it is, the weekly forgetting an actor's name. Isn't he supposed to be in the next Spider-Man movie?
Who?
Daredevil? Well, not necessarily Daredevil, but definitely
Charlie
Matt
Cox.
Murdock. Yeah, Charlie Cox.
That would be fantastic.
Didn't we hear that?
Fans have been clamoring for that ever since with the success of the Netflix show, and he was fantastic. Such a good show. I know the quality and some of the writing flagged on a couple of those shows, right? It had some strong points and some weak points, at least in my opinion. We felt like the Daredevil show was fantastic. The Jessica Jones stuff was really good, especially the first season with David Tennant as the villain. He was amazing. But the Charlie Cox
Luke
did
Cage
such a
2.
fantastic. Also good. So that would be great. And I don't know that I have read any kind of confirmation of that.
No,
we can.
you're never going to get confirmation with Marvel unless they
actually cast it
or something like that.
Yeah, here's something from Screen Rant, an article from January. Daredevil star Charlie Cox reportedly wraps filming on MCU Spider-Man 3. Reportedly.
He's been quiet. But yeah, that show is the first one to for Netflix's exclusivity to wrap up. It was 2 years after the show ended. Netflix had exclusive rights. That one was the first. I think everything's clear now except let's see, the last two to wrap up were Punisher and Jessica Jones.
Yes.
Yeah, I think in the next few months or so, and they absolutely, for me, they killed the second or the last season of Jessica Jones because they canceled it before it even dropped, and I'm just like, well, I don't want to watch it. I haven't seen it because it was just like, I don't know. I guess it'd be a bit of the same feeling of Justice League, but here's the deal with Justice League and what I do, and I'm 100% restore the Snyderverse, but when you get to the epilogue, if you stop the epilogue before it switches to the I don't know, like the Lex Luthor scene or something, that's a pretty tight ending.
Yeah.
They're the Justice League. They're out there saving people. The Flash is happy. Superman's flying off. And you just kind of stop it there. Although I would really want the Martian Manhunter scene. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Nightmare and the Lex Luthor thing were mid-credit, post-credit scenes. But since he wanted to do that song for his daughter, they didn't want to break that up. That would have been weird.
Sure.
But anyway, that was another tangent. So yeah, Shang-Chi, I know nothing. So that's actually kind of cool for me.
Yeah, I don't think anyone
go
does.
in that and see what it's, and then it's the same thing with me and the Eternals. From my, like, if I'm going to make a noob guess, the Eternals are somewhat MCU's version of the New Gods.
In a manner of speaking. So let me double check this before I run my mouth about it. Because if I'm not mistaken, the Eternals, that run, in a previous episode, you were saying some good things about Brian Michael Bendis because we're reading the House of M. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, he's the one that penned the Eternals. Read it
the
not
New Gods
terribly long ago.
So,
so yeah, it's similar kind of vein. I mean, the Eternals are
we going to get to see a younger Thanos? Is he related to that? Like the same way Darkseid is to the? No, there's no parallel.
Yeah, no, there's no relation there. The Eternals are essentially immortal. They're human beings in a sense, but they were sort of endowed as sort of, what's a good word? Sort of security guards over the earth, just to sort of be stewards or kind of
like the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah, but specifically for humanity, for Earth, right? And the Celestials, these enormously powerful, gigantic beings that just fly around in space, had supposedly had something to do with, in the comics, right? Sort of the origins of life on Earth, certainly sentient life. And they, I think, endowed some of these, they picked a handful of people and like, tell you what, we're going to make you immortal. You're super powerful. Just hang out here and keep an eye on things. We'll be back in about 2.4 million years. See ya. That kind of thing. And
that should be, well, I mean, you got half the cast of Game of Thrones in it, so that should be.
Yeah.
And that's probably Warner Brothers' fault. Warner Brother is they're going to have trouble keeping a hold of their people if they don't start treating them right. There were a couple quick things I want to talk about that I've heard from JusticeCon. I haven't seen it all yet. This was a busy weekend. And JusticeCon, for those that aren't familiar, because I imagine a few of we're up to 42 subscribers now. I'll quit counting after we hit 100. JusticeCon is it started last year, and it is in essence what they had a thing called SnyderCon once, and Zack Snyder hosted a screening of Dawn of the Dead and Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and Watchmen, and over a weekend, and he talked about the movies with people. And this is a continuation of that, except it happened post I don't want to say the word because freaking Google will grab it and think we're capitalizing off of a sensitive situation. But anyway, after that, and everyone's at home watching these things online, these fine people, they are referred to the Nana and Cole are the nerd queens, and Meg, who's Wonder Meg, they were some of the original, like if you ever saw that picture of the release of the Snyder Cut when it first started happening, like a month or two, the Comic-Con right after the theatrical cut drop. They're the people, the very first. And they've ended up becoming friends with Zack Snyder. So, and Zack is very supportive of this. So they had this JusticeCon, and the first one was actually more talked about and had more views than the online Comic-Con.
Wow.
It destroyed it. Well, and they, Zach's on this one. Ray Fisher did one. Harry Lennox did a panel. I've seen the Zack Snyder panel so far. And in the Zack Snyder panel, Chris Terrio shows up, and he is the writer of Batman v Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Was this the guy that wrote Argo? He
wrote Argo. And the story, there was an article recently that Chris Terrio put out pretty much bashing Warner Brothers. But the story of how he got on Batman v Superman is when Ben got the wow, Siri. When Ben got the draft of the script, Ben Affleck got the draft of the script, he's like, no. So he called Chris Terrio, and Chris Terrio did a page one rewrite, and him and Zach became great friends because of that. They work well together because Chris Terrio doesn't write short stories. The Rise of the Skywalker or Rise of Skywalker, I can't remember the name of the movie. It was a fun movie. It's a good Star Wars movie. But I got the same feeling from it that I got from stuff like Godzilla versus Kong and the theatrical release of Batman versus Superman, or v Superman, is there was more. I felt like there was more in Rise of the Skywalker, and Chris Terrio has been very quiet since.
What do you mean by that?
It felt rushed to me. It felt condensed.
It felt edited?
Cut into pieces.
Okay, I see.
Because Chris Terrio's stories are always deep character dives, and Finn's character, there seemed to be a whole subplot of him that was reduced to, I got to tell you about something. And then at the very end, it's revealed with and you felt like there was more there, that Finn was force sensitive, I think was what it ended up being.
Oh, yeah. Oh, without question.
I felt like something got cut. It just felt cut. Release the Terrio cut.
Yeah. I think my end thoughts on that were they had to leave us with a sense at the end of the film that you still have force sensitive people in the world. You've got heroes out there. Now you've got Rey, who kind of has her head screwed on straight and feels like, she has become a Jedi. And now there's a sense of potential for people Star Wars universe. At the end
Correct.
of the film, you feel
And
like, okay, this is the conclusion of a story arc. But for people that want to feel like, you know, the story could go on into the future.
No, I'm not
that's
disputing that. I'm saying there was more to it before that. Chris Terrio doesn't just drop that like that. That's not the way he writes. I mean, if you've seen like Bat BVS, the Ultimate Edition, is 30 minutes of extra story.
Right.
For instance, they cut out how they blamed Superman for the attack at the beginning of the movie, where they were like flamethrowing everyone. They cut important little pieces out, and I feel that's how I felt after Rise of Skywalker. Loved the movie, but I feel like there's another 30 minutes out there that binds it all together. So he comes on and talks a lot about that. The big drop here is that Warner Brothers wouldn't let Zach use the Green Lantern. It was supposed to be 2 Green Lanterns at the end of Justice League. It was supposed to be John Stewart and now see, I was saying it right all earlier. Kilowog.
Yep.
Kilowog. Let's see if I can get on the first try. Someone dropped the concept art for him, and no, that's the one from the Ryan Reynolds. Shoot. They kind of made him look like, oh, there it is. Except someone colorized it for some reason. Here is yeah. And he was supposed to be open image in new tab. So we can make it bigger. He was supposed to be in it with a non-speaking role behind John Stewart there. And actually he is in Justice League. They show him during that future thing. He's the dead Green Lantern.
Okay.
In the future.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'll post the link for this JusticeCon, because if you really want to, you know, Zach and Chris Terrio, there's Chris Terrio. They talk straight up for an hour and 4 minutes. And it's just all these little things about Justice League and all the ideas they have and how it was supposed to be this mythic thing. So that's it. Yeah. That's it for that. I figure we probably need to get on some Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay. And we're back to Disney Plus, Marvel, Falcon and Winter Soldier, episode 5.
Yeah, one more.
Wow.
I hope it's long.
Does not disappoint. It was long. Yeah. There was a point at which I felt like, okay, now that it's going to fade to black and it's going to be the end of the episode. And I hit pause and I was like, yeah, we have 18, 20 minutes left. It was great.
You remember to watch through the credits this time, because I figured since this was the penultimate episode, now they're going to start having mid-credit scenes. So
of course they are. Something that we maybe kind of predicted. I think everyone saw this coming. Honestly, I'm not taking credit for anything here. I'm pretty sure everyone saw that John Walker's character was unstable from an early point. And we saw in the previous episode that, to me anyway, it seemed very obvious that he has this sort of inadequacy, these feelings of inferiority. And in order to live up to being able to carry the shield, to call himself Captain America, he needs to be enhanced. He needs to be superhuman. And it seemed that once he became aware that there was super soldier serum floating around out there somewhere, that's his number one priority. It doesn't matter what he's got to do. He's going to get his hands on one of those vials, and lo and behold, who was it that said this in the episode? I mean, I think it came up in the conversations between Sam and Bucky and Zemo. This whole argument of, does power corrupt? Taking the super soldier serum perhaps just makes you more of what you already are, which is something going all the way back to Captain America: The First Avenger.
Maybe that was Walker and his friend.
Battlestar.
Battlestar.
Can't remember the soldier's name. I should know these character names off the top of my head. But yeah, the fact that it's going to make you, it's not going to make you different. It's going to make you more of what you already are. Whatever's already there is going to come to the front.
Actually, we both get to drink some tea. I get to drink some tea literally, and the serum is ingested. You just drink it. They stated that at some point in the episode.
Did they? Did I miss that? Oh my! I'm gonna.
It just hit me. I want to say it was when. Jeez, I remember maybe it was when Zemo was talking to Bucky, and someone said something about drinking it. I remembered it went by like a flash. And you get to drink tea, and the very first thing that happens in the episode is that they fight, and it's fantastic. A good fight. That felt like Marvel can be hit and miss on its fight choreography, and this was a hit.
Yeah,
100%.
Indeed,
it was brutal.
Walker has a now superhuman strength, agility, reflexes, durability, all that good stuff. I was nervous for Sam
got
during the whole thing.
Whooped.
Yeah. Now
and his wings ripped off.
Yeah. So I made a comment early on that in the very first episode, we got a couple of scenes where the Falcon doing his thing, some kind of aerial combat, and my one complaint of the show so far in that vein has been it was early on. We got to see this really cool scene of the Falcon doing some really cool stuff, and I feel like the whole show we've had this huge section here in the middle where Sam's just been walking around in a leather jacket and blue jeans, not really seeing much action. It's okay, just so we finally get to see him fight in this scene, and they're not even aerial necessarily, right? They're in this warehouse, but still he holds his own.
Right.
I think this is a little bit of in a way, it's kind of foreshadowing. It's something that we're going to be left asking the question. Everybody's holding their breath to get to see the new and improved Wakandan designed, Falcon suit, and he's going to have the shield on. And, I think we're going to get that in next week's episode.
I'm assuming that's what's in the box.
Oh, absolutely.
But they never showed us that's what's in the box.
Absolutely.
That's got to be.
Yeah, that's coming.
But is it going to be Wakandan looking, or is it going to be like the one from the comics where it looks like the Captain America suit with wings?
We'll see. But the point I'm trying to make here is we had a conversation early on in the show about can you, using the shield and throwing it around, and we got to see some of that, right? Maybe the shield is very light. Right? Maybe you don't have to be superhuman, clearly, to throw that thing around. And
boomerang properties too. Vibranium. Whenever they say vibranium, I always think it's like something like if you hit it with a hammer, it's going to have some sort of effect. And it seemed like when you throw it, it bounces off things, and it's very aerodynamic. But it was designed by an aerospace engineer,
right? And for the sake of conversation. Yeah. It's one of these things where your willing suspension of disbelief has to be able to kind of come to grips with some sort of fantasy element, right? Some kind of
whole movie later of Captain Boomerang. It's going to get even more.
Well, the physics of the whole thing. Here's, at least in my mind, I feel like these scenes where they show Sam throwing it around and it's bouncing off the trees, right? They put a bunch of football pads and stuff on it. I think it seems to ricochet in a very predictable way. Mm-hmm. Let's just leave it at that, right? It seems like you can practice with it a little bit and you can get it to fly and bounce off of things in a very predictable way as far as the angles and everything is it. But finally, the point I'm trying to make is if Sam's so good at using the wingsuit at this point, he's highly trained, right? He maneuvers with that thing so well and uses it so well that he doesn't have to be a super soldier.
Correct. And actually, you notice when he was training doing flips and stuff.
Yeah.
And that seems to be he's going to be more like a ninja or something. So,
right. It's,
and he definitely doesn't have to be a super soldier if he has Bucky as his sidekick.
Yeah, I think we got off talking about this because that whole fight scene, I was nervous. There was a brief moment where I was like, oh no, Sam's going to get his back broken or a leg cracked in half.
That would have been
right?
very roady.
Yeah. But he holds his own until, John Walker just snaps, right? And they eventually just have to, they overcome him because it's 2 against 1, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He lays the smackdown on Bucky, and he finally comes to and is able to essentially rescue Sam. So
yeah, it was a good fight. Actually, I could just go back and watch that fight again.
And in the wake of that, we see that the video of him murdering a guy in the middle of Latvia or Prague, wherever they were, right? He just murders a man in the streets with a shield. He's court-martialed and given a dishonorable discharge. And they basically tell him, you're lucky you're not in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He's very bitter about the whole situation because he feels like he, at the very least, doesn't have 100% of the blame for the whole thing. But we're not sure if anyone else, actually, I think we can reasonably say that no one else knows that he took the serum. Except in this screenshot you just had open there a second ago, we get introduced very, very briefly to Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, who I had to go.
Purple hair.
Absolutely. And I had to go. So I immediately suspected that this was Madame Hydra and that she introduces herself. And I had to go look up some of the history of this Fontaine character. And I think that's what we're supposed to think here, right? This is some version of Madame Hydra.
That seems to be the consensus. Like literally it's the top article on Screen Rant.
Yeah.
And the purple streak you see here with the image, she's got the streak in her hair. And this is apparently a more recent version, because I think the article you sent me and that I read was that she was originally not a villain. She was originally not Madame Hydra. She was the Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, which is fun to say.
That's right. Yeah.
In the 60s and had a history with Nick Fury. Yeah, that could be interesting.
She was a Russian.
We haven't really seen Nick Fury's personal life.
Yeah. She was a Cold War spy in the comics. Her original appearance in the comics, she was a Cold War spy, hooked up with Nick Fury. They fall in love, and they get this kind of clandestine relationship going on behind the scenes, and they're both sort of global spies. Right?
That's
it's a very kind of Bond,
right
kind of a James Bond type of plot, in a way. But yeah, we something else that I brought up on a previous episode is, the fate of S.H.I.E.L.D. We are getting a version of S.W.O.R.D. in the MCU, but what exactly is the fate of Nick Fury, all of the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who, weren't Hydra? Like, are we going to get some kind of return of that?
The show is still canon, which I'm not certain. And when I left off, the show was after, it was a couple seasons previous to its end, where at the end of the Ghost Rider storyline, they divided the season into like 2 storylines, and it was the first half of that season, and other shows came up and lost it. Yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of was operating again, very very small time, kind of in the background, and no one knew they existed. And
right,
I get the impression Nick Fury did, but I don't know that that's canon because, they haven't mentioned it in any of the definite canon stuff. But yeah, it does seem to open the door to bring Hydra back.
Yeah. And so we get, after looking into this, I actually want to say that I had read about this or in looking at the cast early on for the forthcoming Black Widow movie.
I didn't know that.
Turns out the writers and the MCU folks, they got a flip-flop here because the character was originally slated to make her appearance in the Black Widow film that's coming. So they filmed scenes with her as Fontaine, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, as this character with the Black Widow film, but because of everything that's happened in 2020 and theaters being closed, right? The movie didn't get released, it got delayed. So who knows if they'll go back and edit that, if it's going to be the same. As that movie is essentially a flashback, right? It's going to happen previous chronologically.
So it sets up whatever we're seeing here.
Maybe, yeah. So
maybe they make the adjustments here because she filmed this after Black Widow.
Yep.
And actually after Black Widow was delayed too. So it's quite possible that this will be the adjustment. The question is will she be in the next episode? I guess we will have to wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah. Anxious about that. Curious to see if you have any thoughts on the blank business card.
I thought I was seeing things.
Well, and his wife.
Maybe you hold it under a black light.
Yeah, John's wife said there's nothing on it. It's blank. It was like white on one side and black on the other, I think. Or maybe it was just solid black.
I think it was white on one side.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something he figures out in the next episode. They got a lot. They've opened. This is the penultimate episode. Penultimate being my favorite word.
Yeah.
They have started more storylines in the last 2 episodes than they have put. It doesn't seem like they're pushing to an end. It seems like they're pushing to
a season 2.
Yeah.
Well, I think
thank goodness they're not on Warner Brothers, so they probably will get a season 2.
There's a huge element of this episode that has been a thread popping up throughout the entire season, which is some really excellent commentary on, things that I'm honestly not equipped to speak on as far as race and kind of the climate in different areas of the country in the United States and some of our very troubled history there. This whole scene is heartbreaking scene with Isaiah talking about what happened to him. They experimented on him. They put him in prison for 30 years. They tried to bury him, right? They essentially sent his team off to die, or they got captured rather, and they're a POW camp, and they're basically just going to shoot missiles at the camp, just try to bury the whole thing so that nobody would know. And you see Sam, I think, struggling to come to grips with the idea of is the United States or can the U.S. get behind a black Captain America?
Mm-hmm.
Right, is a big element of this, and I think we're all cheering for him and kind of thankful there at the end as he seems to have this whole experience with his sister. The community comes together and helps him rebuild the family fishing boat, right? And it's this very cathartic experience
and then
for him.
It's like him and Bucky pretend not to be friends, but look, Bucky comes back. He gets the thing from, and these are backwards, these slides. He goes to her and says, I need one more favor, and then brings him that box. And he's pretending, he's like, I'm just giving you this box. He's like, oh, but I guess I'll stay and help you fix your boat.
That's right.
I'll stay here. I'll flirt with your sister.
That's right. He says his sister. He's like, what's up? That's funny. Well,
I don't know. That's kind of funny. I kind of pictured that Bucky would end up being more like a Captain Jack type, maybe a little bit on the. He would be just as likely to flirt with Sam as his sister, but I don't know. Maybe that's just the way Sebastian Stan plays him. But
maybe
love Captain Jack. I have not seen the Doctor Who holiday special from this year. I need to watch that. But anyway, so back to this. So they've left us. This actor, and I am sorry I do not know her name, is very hopeful that she will be in the Wakanda series, and I am too. She is very good.
Yeah, something that we were speculating on after watching the previous episode and this one, and I don't know if we know this yet. This is a little bit of a tangent, but the slated forthcoming Black Panther sequel. And I think there's a lot of speculation there that one of the Dora Milaje are potentially like either it's going to be the character that played Okoye, and I'm going to butcher the actress's name. She played Michonne in The Walking Dead, right? And
that's Denai Guerrero. But I thought of a better idea.
Or if it's going to be Shuri, his sister.
No, even better than Shuri. From the Oscar winner among all those. Is that her? I can't tell.
Lupita Nyong'o.
Yes, Lupita.
Right. Yeah. Who was,
Yeah,
the love
she
interest.
would be a fine choice.
Yeah, she was in 12 Years a Slave, I think.
Because she's no longer, 12 Years a Slave. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Love that movie. She is no longer, and say it, Dora
Milaje.
She was a former member. Anyone can show up and challenge, right?
Oh, she's also the voice of Maz Kanata in the newer Star Wars movies. I didn't realize that. Just looking at her on IMDb. Okay.
That would be the surprise choice, I think. That would be the, wow, what?
Yeah. So, the Dora Milaje.
Dora Milaje.
Yeah. This is sort of like I guess, kind of the King's Guard, the sort of elite, Wakandan military force. I don't know what you call them. They're this squad of, the most elite sort of warriors there. And so I think a lot of people speculate that one of them is going to step forward and become the new Black Panther. And we were kind of talking about that after this. Again, they show up. Bucky pulls a fast one on us. We think he's going to execute Zemo, and pulls the trigger. There's no bullets in the gun. It's like, psych, gotcha. And then they show up to cart him off to the raft, which the raft is still a place.
Yep.
We last saw that at the end of Civil War. Post-credit scene where Steve shows up to bust them all out. So the raft is still a place. Maybe that'll pop up again in a future MCU as a location.
And that brings us to there's one part we haven't talked about yet, and this is what's going on with the Flag Smashers. And they were sympathetic up until this episode, and now they have gotten in league with some kind of mercenary or something, and apparently the stuff they're going to be doing is...
That's Batroc, right? The French sort of commando mercenary guy. We first saw his character in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, right? The second Captain America film. He was with the Hydra agents, or at least the Hydra plot where they were pulling strings from behind the scenes.
That makes me wonder.
Batroc was on the boat, right? They take control of this ship in international waters, and then Steve and the whole S.H.I.E.L.D. team, they parachute in and take control of the boat back.
That was the other really great choreographed fight, Steve versus the guy on the boat.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the same Hydra is pushing them into this then. Maybe that it's kind of like a Lex Luthor situation where Hydra, this is all going according to plan. So I guess we'll find out.
Right.
I feel like if nothing is resolved, I don't feel like we're going to get a resolution to the John Walker story. I think that this whole season is going to be like his origin. When they're setting him up for the future. But the Flag Smashers, I feel like that is the story that can be resolved this week, I think.
Well, I'm wondering if we're going to see a version of U.S. Agent. We mentioned that in previous episodes. Who is John Walker? And there is this precedent with comics that he was a faux Captain America.
Yeah, they already made his outfit in the beginning.
Kind of looked like that.
It had the A and stuff. Yeah.
In the comics, it's black. And I think he did have a shield that wasn't actually Cap's shield.
Right. It was.
It makes me wonder if he's going to call Madame Hydra, supposedly, the Fontaine, De Fontaine character, and she's going to hook him up with some new gear, and he's going to show up with this sort of, super villain version of Captain America, right? Where he's going to be all black and he's got some chromed out shield. And he's going to end up having this sort of shield duel with Sam.
Well, I don't know. How long is the last episode supposed to be? Because if it's only going to be an hour, then that's a lot to happen.
I don't think we know how long it's going to be. We don't know that until they post it.
HBO would do that. They would give you the episode synopsis in length. I remember that for Game of Thrones. They're like, "Ooh, the last episode's going to be an hour and 15 minutes." Yay!
Oh yeah.
People would get excited over it being 5 minutes longer than normal. Well, good. Well, so we're stoked. I'm stoked for this finale. it feels short. And like I said, I'm hoping for season 2. Personally, I feel like that's what the direction they're going. Whereas with Obi-Wan, that's supposed to be I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a one-off, one season thing. That type of thing. I think WandaVision was supposed to be a one season thing.
That makes sense.